Good evening. I am in York, Nebraska. I picked this up in Madison, Nebraska. It's going to South Hutchinson, Kansas. I'll be down there later tonight. It's about 7 p.m. right now. So I'm shooting for maybe 10:30 tonight. I'll be down there. And then I got to do a 34, because I'll be down about 8 hours on my 70, and there's really no place else I can go. I'm a deadhead over to Garden City to our yard. Well, I'll take this trailer over to the Tyson plant in Holcomb, drop it off. Well, not this trailer, but the empty I pick up in South Hutch. And then I'll go ahead and do a 34 and knock that out at the yard there. Now's a good time to do it because tomorrow's Sunday, and then Sunday night time goes in, so I'll have a fresh 70 Monday when time, when the new week starts. So this week's not going to be great for miles. It's not going to be terrible. I'll end up with about 3,400 miles. For this company, that's not bad. They try to shoot for everybody getting about 35. But since we don't do as many dropping hooks as we used to, it makes it a bit harder. And I got held up at the JBS plant in Cactus, Texas on my first trip of the week, actually. That, if it wouldn't have been for that, I might have got about 3,800. I'd have been able to get another trip in. But I'm not complaining. I can get over 32. I'm good. 4,000 is great. Man, during the pandemic when I worked here before, when they suspended the hours of service rules, I mean, we were getting 4,800. God dang it, I can't stop for that. Not loaded, damn. Sorry, I thought for a second I might try it, but there's no way. I end up in the middle of the intersection. We were getting 4,800, 5,000 a week. We were kind of hoping they would suspend it a little longer, But, anyway. But, so it's not going to be a bad week. It's getting close to Thanksgiving. I'm going to stay out till Thanksgiving. So the freight's going to get a little funky between now and Christmas. And then after Christmas, especially after New Year's, it'll fire back up fairly normal again. Last year this time when I was in Alaska, it was slow. We weren't doing the explosives anymore, and it was slow between then and New Year's. And then I went to running the haul road last winter, in January. I ran the haul road and I ran down the Alaska Highway a couple of times as well. This year, I mean, it's November 15th in Nebraska and it's 53 degrees outside, man. I mean, I don't know. We're going to get a winter. It's going to come. And when it gets here, it's probably going to get here with a vengeance, because you can't hold Mother Nature back forever. This unusually warm weather, enjoy it now, because I got a feeling we're going to get an Arctic front's going to come through and it's going to blow all the way down to San Antonio or something, and it's just going to freeze the whole middle of the country. truck accident. This one in Arkansas. Some guy named Mohammed, and I don't remember what his last name is, from Minneapolis. Another hotbed for these guys, Minnesota, for whatever reason. I don't know what it is about Minnesota. But apparently it was out there on I-40, and you know, you guys been driving for a while, you know, they got that TA out there. Oh, what's the name of that little town? Just west of West Memphis. You know what I'm talking about. It's on the tip of my tongue. I haven't been out there in a minute. I don't generally go that far east anymore, but anyway, you know, they got that old TA's been out there forever. And apparently he was going westbound, crossed the median, and then hit another truck and killed the other truck driver. And that guy was from, I think he was from Dallas. I think. I don't know. It doesn't. Well, it does matter to us, obviously, but it doesn't matter to the story where he was from. But, yeah, we'll see what happens there. I haven't been to California in a while, but I hear it's a demolition derby out there with these guys. You know, they've given out so many CDLs to illegals out there, and the highways are pretty dangerous out there with these guys. I don't know. What is it, 17,000 CDLs the state of California gave out to these guys? Just crazy. Somewhere that, well, I've heard it several times, read it several times, that during the previous administration, we had upwards of 10,000 people a day just walking across the border. 10,000 a day. Now, how many of them were going out and getting non-domicile CDLs, I don't know. That's a lot of people, 10,000 a day. And I heard a statistic of there could be upwards of 200,000 of these guys driving, you know, with CDLs. It seems a bit high, but I mean, I don't know. I'm going to have to try to do a little more research on that. Could you imagine if we could get 200,000 of these guys off the road? How much it would help the rates for us? The accident rates would start going down again like they were before for trucks. And maybe we could get respected again in this out here instead of people being terrified of us because of people like that. Now, there are American drivers who do stupid things. I get that. But it's rare. These accidents like we're having now, not your normal run-of-the-mill accidents. Somebody changes lanes and they clip somebody else and stuff like that. That's going to happen. When you're in a big vehicle with a lot of blind spots, unfortunately, human error is going to take over and it's going to happen. But these horrific accidents with these guys plowing into traffic and such. I think the last time I heard of an American driver doing that was, what was that, 5 or 6 years ago. They had that guy, that local driver, that was fiddling with the music on his radio or something, and he plowed in to stop traffic. But that was a rarity. Even 5 or 6 years ago, that was a rarity. Very, very. Before that one, I don't remember the last time I heard that happen. I really don't. Now it's not as rare, and I've talked about that before, so I'm not going to rehash it again, but you get my point. The guy who did the U-turn in Florida and killed those people, he failed his CDL exam 12 times before he passed it. 12 times. But anyway, I haven't been down here to South Hutchinson since before I went to Alaska in 2023. I hadn't been up there to Madison, Nebraska, to that plant since 2023. Nothing changed. The thing about South Hutch down here that's good is you get down there, especially on the weekend or overnight, there's no one there really. You just drop the trailer, you sign on the bills what time you got there, you know, what time you dropped it, and put a copy in the box and keep a copy for yourself. And that's it. You go find an empty trailer and get out of there. So it's pretty easy. The hardest part sometimes is finding a place to drop your loaded trailer, because it can get kind of crowded in there, depending on how many people have dropped trailers in there over the weekend. I've been to some places, man. Anybody ever been to that old Winn-Dixie warehouse in Louisville, Kentucky? Holy crap. I remember going there, and you check in, and if you're a little early, what they'll do is send you down to a Winn-Dixie store down the street, and you can park down there. And you got to come in at a certain time. This is before cell phones, before they can just call you. They tell you, come in at a certain time. And the place was so tight that, like where I backed in, the building was like an L shape. So if you backed in close to that bend there in the L, so there were trucks backed in, around the bend of the L, kind of. So when they back in, they're literally in front of your truck. You can't get out until they get out. So if if you get done before them, you just got to sit there and wait. But yeah, that was a tight place. I didn't go there very often, thank God. In the old Winn-Dixie warehouse in Jacksonville, Florida, not that new one now they've got. That one they got now is nice and big and it's outside of town. But the old one that was in town, that one was a big pain in the behind. Back in the day, when I used to go to LA every week, some of those places I used to go to downtown. The thing about LA, I used to go there every week, right? So I knew Los Angeles as well as I knew Dallas, and I lived in the Dallas area at the time. And I could make 5 or 6 drops around downtown LA, city industry, commerce, all that little area down East LA, down in that area, and never have to get on the freeway. Because I'd just run the surface streets. I'd start about 4 in the morning, and I'd hit those places. Boom, 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 boom. Get out of there, get up to Santa Barbara, and that's where I'd reload in Santa Barbara to go back to Dallas. Some of those little cold storages were so tight, I had a pallet jack on my trailer, a hand jack, because I did a lot of driver unloading. Because we did so much LTL. So I just pull up along the curb there and jump out, bring that stuff to the back, and the guys come out and snatch it off. There's a couple of places down there on Skid Row I used to go to that were like that, because they were just so tight. We'd already have a bunch of trucks in there, and first couple times I went in there, I'd go in there and ask guys, well, look, man, can you come out? 'Cause I've got a jack. Well, if you've got a pallet jack, yeah, okay. And they just got to where every time they'd see me, they'd send the guy out with a forklift. They liked it because they didn't have to worry about waiting on me to back in, and I liked it because I could just pull up on the curb, unload. 5 minutes, I'd be in and out. Some of those places, LA downtown, but the southern bottom end of downtown is pretty truck friendly. You know, you can get around with a truck pretty good. Go to a lot of these little old meat places. I'd bring in meat from Texas into there, and had some old produce places down there I used to go to every once in a while. You know, unlike New York, LA still has some manufacturing and warehousing, you know, in the city. Although a lot of that stuff was right across the city limits into the city of industry and stuff like that, but I mean, some of it was in LA proper. You know, New York City, there's hardly no, or at least Manhattan anyway, there's no industry anymore. That's all moved out over in New Jersey or the outer boroughs or Long Island or wherever. There used to be a place I used to go to just north of New York City, there in, I believe it was in Connecticut. I think it was across the state line in Connecticut. No, you know what, it wasn't. It was in New Rochelle, New York. That's where it was. And I went there a few times for a company I worked for. Not a bad place to go, really, but you had to back in this, basically a hole in the building. That's where you had to back in. There was one dock, and then, like I said, there was a hole in the building. That you could tell they made it after the building was built. The building was really old, and you backed in there, and they'd snatch it right off, and that was it. Going about your business. What was I working for then? I don't remember. Oh, Quaker Transport out of Dallas. Yeah, that's what I was working for. I did mostly the West Coast for them, but every once in a while I'd bring something all the way across over to the East Coast. Guys didn't like running the East Coast. I wasn't a fan of it myself. I wasn't a fan of the Southeast. I'm still not a fan of the Southeast. I don't have to worry about that working here. We don't run the Southeast. Going to North Carolina one time. Well, I went to North Carolina several times, but this one particular time, I was at a truck wash somewhere, and this guy was talking about, yeah, you know, what we do in North Carolina is if we see a truck going over the speed limit, we just ride behind him because we know that a cop will never pull us over as long as there's a truck that he can pull over. And that's the mentality in the Southeast, you know. Pickup riding beside me with got them bright lights. He's got them bumper lights. Got his regular headlights and his lights in the bumper. He's gonna sit there and ride next to me. Make sure he keeps him in my left mirror. going a couple of miles over the speed limit, you know, that's nothing for these people. Anyway, yeah, I never was a fan of the South. I used to do it every week. I used to do LTL freight out to the Carolinas, South Carolina, North Carolina. I'd go out there to the Bilo warehouse, and in South Carolina, I'd go to Ingalls and Black Mountain. I'd go to the Krispy Kreme there in Winston-Salem. And there was another place there in Winston-Salem I used to go to. I don't remember the name of it. Obviously, Food Lion, warehouse, a couple of them. Harris Teeter down there outside of Charlotte. What is that, Indian Trail or something? Outside of Charlotte. I do that Food Line warehouse down there. Oh, what's that town in North Carolina? I think it was down off 95. It got destroyed by a tornado or a hurricane a few years ago. Oh, what's the name of that town? I don't remember, but anyway. That was usually always my last drop. Sometimes I'd have to go to the Domino's warehouse in Raleigh area. I do Harris Teeter in Indian Trail, and I do Harris Teeter in, I believe it was in Greensboro. There's another Harris Teeter warehouse out that way somewhere. This guy's still in the left lane there, kind of. He's not beside me, he's just a little behind the back of my trailer with those lights. I don't know what he's going to do. I don't know if he wants to speed up past me, or if he's going to sit there and make sure he keeps those lights in my mirror. I don't know. That's when you want to have some marbles or ball bearings or something, just throw out there. Bust some lights. Put my mirror all the way to the left and point it down. You can reflect those lights back on him. They do that, man. I don't understand. Or either that or on a 2-lane road, they'll run right up to the back of your trailer and then they'll ride that zipper line so they can, it's almost like they purposely want to make sure they put that left headlight right in your mirror. And they'll just ride there. I don't know. I don't understand humans. I really don't. He got behind me. I guess he didn't appreciate the headlights being reflected back on him. Well, I don't appreciate them either, boss, so, you know. Welcome to my world. Well, I wonder if this way station down here is open. This is a funny way station down here on 83, just north of the Kansas line. And I say it's funny because, like, sometimes during the day it'll be closed, but at night it'll be open. And I don't know if they're just trying to catch people who think it's going to be closed, or I don't know. I don't know what that's about. This Saturday night, of course that doesn't mean anything at this scale either, because they have odd hours. It's like the one coming out of Anchorage, Alaska. I can go through there in the middle of the day and it'll be closed. Or I can go through there on a Saturday night or a Sunday night, 2 in the morning, when I used to bring us, doubles out of Anchorage going to Fairbanks, and it'll be wide open. And they want to check your weight. And they'll be, oh, well, back up, drivers. No, I'm not backing 2 45-foot trailers up. I'm not doing it. If you didn't get it when I rolled over the scale the first time, that's on you. I'll tell you a funny thing I used to do in this business. I used to go to the port of Camden, New Jersey. I used to go there quite often, actually, back in the day. Because I'd run produce from California. No, I'd run apples from Washington. I believe Yakima most of the time there, Yakima, Washington, over to the Costco warehouse in Monroe, New Jersey, right? Then I'd go over to the port of Camden, New Jersey, and pick up apples from New Zealand and run them back across to Washington. Now, they're a different kind of apple, but still, it's just funny, how that works. They would usually go to the Walmart warehouse there in Grandview, Washington. That's like we used to pick up apples in Washington State, take them to Jacksonville, Florida, and then they put them on a boat and take them somewhere, South America or someplace. But it's cheaper to truck them across the country and then put them on a ship on the East Coast than to put them on a ship on the West Coast and have to go all the way around. That's one drawback in Alaska, is a lot of times there, in trucking there, depending on what you're doing, you're dependent on is the boat on time, right? You're supposed to pick up a load. When I was hauling a lot of Carlisle freight, pulling doubles out of Anchorage to go to Fairbanks, the boat's supposed to be in on Sunday. And then Sunday night, you'd get out of there. The guys would pick the stuff up at the port, bring it back to the Carlisle warehouse, and they'd do whatever. And, put your set of doubles together, and then you'd take off. Sometimes the boat was late. And it'd be Monday before you'd get out of there. Just a bit. You're at the mercy of the boat. You're at the mercy of the weather out in the Gulf of Alaska. The boat coming up from Tacoma, Washington. That's one drawback about, the freight. Now, obviously, what I was doing running the haul road didn't really affect that too much. There was always something going up. I mean, the Cisco warehouse, Cisco US Foods, they're dependent on the boat as well, to a point, but a lot of that stuff was already there, They always had a supply of something to go north with. It's not like if I left on Tuesday, the boat was coming in that morning or something, or the day before. the speed limit by a lot. I was. There's no denying that. He pulls me over, you know, he gives me the whole, you know how fast you're going, blah, blah, whatever. Of course, I don't never admit that, you know, but, you know, he's wanting to see my license and all that. Anyway, I give my license, permit book. He goes back to his car. He's not back there 2 minutes. And he comes back and he hands it to me. He said, here. He said, it's your lucky day. I just got to call somebody run from another officer. So I got to go. Slow down. I said, okay. I said, well, I don't know who it was who was running from that other officer, but thank you. You know, you used to see stuff like that on TV, right? Like on Chips or something. You know, they got somebody pulled over and then they get a call that, you know, somebody needs backup. So, oh, it's your lucky day, you know, I gotta go. But I never had it actually happen to me. And I got pulled over in Nebraska on the interstate one time, years ago. Running an old Freightliner Classic. Had that Series 60 Detroit, 500 Detroit, 18 speed. Good solid truck. The great thing about those old Freightliner Classics is that you had a lot of room in them. So you had the hood, right? But you had a lot of room. Because I used to drive a 379 Pete back in the day. And it was a beautiful truck. It was pearl black. I drove it brand new off the lot at Dallas Peterbilt. I didn't buy it. The guy I was working for bought it. But, you know, it was a beautiful truck. But you have no room in those trucks. I mean, you really don't. I didn't mind so much back in the day. You know, now, you know, I carry a little more stuff with me. I like having some room. These Kenworths are good about having room. But anyway, the freight, that was a good old truck. An old Series 60 Detroit, man. Those are just solid motors that would just run and run and run. I mean, they were just really reliable, bulletproof motors, which is why they don't have them anymore. But anyway, I don't know. I was doing over 80. I know that. I think I was doing like 82, 83, pulled me over. And he's like, look, you know, speed limit is 75. He said, I'll give you up to 80. You know, just keep it under 80, man. He didn't give me a ticket. He was cool about it. He just let me know. It's alright, you know. And I did after that. I think I set the cruise on like 78 or something. Yeah, we used to stroll back in the day now. I remember I was going across Nevada one time. I had that 379P. And I was on my way to Winnemucca, Nevada, to pick up a load of potatoes. And I come out of Reno, come up out of the hill there, and I had the speedometer buried. I had to get over there real quick. And I got pulled over by Nevada. Now, I-80 in Nevada, and I didn't realize that till years later, that is pretty much like America's racetrack. You can watch a lot of YouTube videos now from, you know, dash cam videos of the cops in Nevada patrolling that road, and they'll tell you, yeah, this road is it's nothing to pull a guy over in a car or something doing 130 mile an hour, because there's nothing out there. So everybody just thinks that, you know, they just drive however fast they want. And he pulls me over and comes up to the right side of the truck. Are you in a hurry? I said, well, yeah, I'm trying to get to Winnemucca. He said, man, you got to slow down. And I forget how fast. He said, I was doing, I know, at least 90. I was rolling. I just, like I said, I had speedometer buried. That truck was wide open. And you a ticket. He said, but please slow down. I said, okay, you know. Did you get your permit book and log? I had my paper logs back then. Yeah, he looked at my log book and all. He said, all right, everything looks all right. He said, man, just slow down, you know. I said, okay. Went on. Like I said, he had me, you know. He could have wrote me up if he wanted to. But excuse me. We used to do all kind of crazy stuff like that back in the day, man. Just come screaming across. Especially like between Texas and California at night. When the roads kind of cooled off a little bit. You know, in the summertime. Arizona was pretty cool. You had a few a-holes out there. New Mexico had no sense of humor whatsoever. They'd write you a ticket every time. Texas, depending on the cop. California, of course, you know, they have no sense of humor either. Get pulled over in California, you're going to get a ticket. I'm sure there's some people that can tell me stories about how they got pulled over in California and the guy let them go, and hey, God bless you if that happened. But for the most part, you know, by and large, you get pulled over in California, you get a ticket for something if you're in a truck. Get pulled over in Tennessee in a truck, you're going to get a ticket for something. You know, there's just some states are just like that. They, you know, they don't like trucks, and they're going to let you know it. About Nebraska, especially on I-80, is everyone's speeding, right? Everyone's trying their damnedest to get the hell across Nebraska as fast as possible, and it's flat. Most of I-80 is flat, at least till you get to the 76 split, you know. But from Lincoln to out there about Ogallala, or that 76 split, it's pretty flat. So it's flat, it's fairly straight. And I mean, there's a lot of construction zones on it right now, but I mean, so people just run 85, you know, not a big deal. So they're pretty lenient out there because they know it. And if you're not out there leading the pack, if you're not going unusually fast compared to everyone else, pretty much whatever. It's like the 20 freeway there in Dallas, runs along the bottom of Dallas. You know, they don't really care how fast you're going, as long as you're not going faster than everyone else. You know, as long as you're not sticking out like a sore thumb there. cops, if I'm speeding and I get pulled over, I'm not going to admit I was speeding because that's stupid. At the same time, I'm not going to argue with the guy. If he says, I clocked you doing 82 and a 70, I'm not going to sit there and say, no, you didn't. No, I wasn't going that fast. Number one, it doesn't do you any good. You can save all that for court. If that cop's going to write you a ticket, he's going to write you a ticket. You can tell him all day long that he's wrong, you weren't going that speed, he don't care. And I never understood people who want to sit there and argue with the cop about something like that on the side of the road. It does you no good. Take that to court. If you truly feel you weren't speeding, take it to court. But anyway, like I said, I don't admit it, but I don't argue with the guy. And I think I told a story about in Arizona that time where I went from one road to the other. They kind of merged, and the road I was on, it was 65. And when I merged onto the other road, it was 55, and I didn't know it because there was no sign right there, and I got pulled over. And while I didn't argue with the guy per se, and I didn't admit how fast I was going per se, I did say, well, look, man, to be fair, the road I was on, the speed limit 65, I just merged onto this road, and there's no signs telling you that the speed limit dropped. So I didn't argue with him, I'm just letting him know. And he agreed with it. He said, yep, you're right, there's not. I'm not going to give you a ticket, I'm just letting you know it's 55. I said, okay. He said, I'm going to check your permit book, if everything's good, I'll let you go. And he did. And, he was cool about it. Like I said, I didn't sit there and say, you're a liar. I have no idea. Or I wasn't going that fast. No, he was right. You go down the road a little bit further, and there's a sign that says 55. He was cool. As soon as I informed him, hey, I just came off that other road, he started shaking his head, nodding his head like, yep, I understand. I know where you're going with that. He knew. There's the way station. Truck with his brakes. So is it open or is he just going in there to park? Tennessee, back in the day, I don't know if it's still the same way, but Tennessee, if you had a license plate from any of the western states, especially Texas, Arizona, California, New Mexico, like that, they would, and you were going west, they'd give you a hard time because they thought maybe you had drug money on you. Now, they didn't give a damn about you going east across Tennessee, like you were bringing the drugs across. They didn't care about that. They didn't care about stopping the flow of drugs. They wanted that drug money when you were going back west. And so if they saw you were one of those registered out of one of the western, border states especially, they'd pull you over. They'd find some reason to pull you over. I got pulled over just west of Nashville one time on 40. Of course, I had Texas plates on the truck. And I saw the guy get out of his car. He walked up to the back of my trailer for a second. Then he walked up to my truck. Now, it was dark. He says, the reason why I pulled you over is you've got wire on that license plate. And I did. I'd lost a bolt out of the license plate. I had two bolts. One I lost, so I put a piece of baling wire in there until I got back or whatever. Now, I know damn well he did not see that baling wire and that license plate going down the interstate at 70 miles an hour in the middle of the night. That's why he walked up back there. He saw it after he pulled me over, walked up there to see, yep, he's got baling wire. Boom, there's his probable cause. Anyway, he tried the whole drug thing on me. I said, look, man, I don't know anything about drugs. I don't haul drugs. I don't know anything about drugs. I don't have any drug money. You're not searching my truck without a warrant. Basically, have a nice day. He checked my permit book and let me go. He said, where'd you unload at? Blah, blah, whatever. Where'd you load at? I told him. But Tennessee, they did a whole documentary on that years ago. How they would do that. They let the drugs go on across eastbound. They try to tell you, oh yeah, we're doing this to stop the flow of drugs. No, they weren't. They were doing that because they would confiscate that drug money and then they'd let the guy go. They'd let him go. They'd take the money and let him go. They didn't give a damn about drugs. They weren't trying to stop drugs. But Tennessee's always been crooked. When I first started driving, it was a known fact that if you worked for a company that was paying Tennessee money, they wouldn't mess with their trucks. You could go through their no logbook and they'd let you go. As long as your company was paying the state. Tennessee's always been crooked. That's why when I used to watch or listen to, Dave Nemo there on the radio, he had the trucking show. And he had that Tennessee State Trooper on. I quit listening to him. So why are you bringing that guy on? Tennessee's been crooked for years. Nobody drives a truck wants to hear what a Tennessee State Trooper has to say. Tennessee's always been a funny state like that. I never fooled around in Tennessee. I'd get across Tennessee as quick as possible back in the day when I used to go that way. State line. And boom, Kansas welcomes you. Oh, thank you, Kansas. I appreciate that. Got about 140, 150 miles to go. We just stay on this road till we get to Salina, and then of course turns into 135. Run that down to McPherson, Kansas. Cut down to South Hutchinson, or Hutchinson down to South Hutchinson. I'll probably stop at Love's and go ahead and make sure there's fuel in this reefer, because it'll probably sit the weekend before they unload it. Go ahead and top off the truck. They're right down. They may be a mile and a half from that Love's there. Not a bad place to go to, like I said. They got a big lot. You can spend the night there on there. They got a lot across the street where they drop the empties. There's been several times I've been out of hours, or they just didn't have any empties, and I would spend the night there. They didn't care. Sorry for another night video. I do so much night driving with this company. And I get in this pattern where I'm sleeping during the day, driving at night, because he's dropping hooks. I just pick them up whenever I'm done with my break. If I'm, if I have to take a break. Like Greeley. I had to take a 10-hour break in Greeley. So I picked that load up at the JBS in Greeley yesterday evening, ran it overnight to South Sioux City. Got there, got down to Norfolk, Nebraska, just outside of Madison, when they had knocked out a 10-hour break. So it was evening when I picked this up, and I just get in that pattern of running at night, which I don't mind doing it. Some people don't like it, and I've talked about that ad nauseum. I know it's not for everybody. I'll tell you what, though, I picked up a load in Connecticut, I believe, one time, going to that Walmart warehouse in what was that? McLeany, Florida, or whatever. It's right outside of Jacksonville. And I got out of there about 6 that evening. And I ran 95 all the way to Jacksonville. And I didn't have to run it that hard because it was the next day when I got there before I had to unload. But I said, you know what? I'm going to run this down, as far down as I can, overnight. And I did. And I got in the Jacksonville area about sunup the next morning. I just kept my foot in it all the way down to 95. And I said, yep, that's the best time to run this road. Because that's the busiest interstate in America, is I-95. Or it used to be, I don't know. I don't know if any other interstate's gotten busier, but I-95 used to be the busiest interstate in America. And I just kept my foot in it all the way down, man. And there are some crazy truck drivers on that road, man. There are guys, that's all they do, is run between the Northeast and Florida. Right? And those guys, man, whew, that's a whole different breed of driver there. But I mean, you have to be, because you have to be, none of those four-wheelers on that road are going to give you a break. I don't care if you're in New Jersey, North Carolina, Georgia, wherever. Doesn't matter. You're on the 95, all the way to Miami, it's like that. The only place on the 95 where you get maybe a little bit of a break is up in Maine if you go up that far. because there's nobody up there. Once you get up through New Hampshire, you know, get into Maine, yeah, it's pretty quiet. But yeah, I got out of that place in Connecticut. I don't even remember what I was hauling. I got out of that place in Connecticut. I put my foot in it all the way to Jacksonville. That guy with the fog lights, or with the lights in the button, they're not really fog lights. Guys call them fog lights, they're not fog lights. Just auxiliary lights, I guess. He's coming up behind me again. I was hoping he turned off back there somewhere, but I guess not. I think he's going to actually pass me this time. We're about to come into Belleville, so I'll slow down. Unlike these four-wheelers, I do slow down in these small towns. That's where you get your tickets at. Run the I-5 from the San Diego area all the way up to Washington State. I've done that. And that's a long way in California with that ridiculous truck speed limit. Of course, Oregon's got one too. And Washington. I think it's what's the ending mile marker on I-5 in Northern California? It was like 702, 704, something like that. I don't remember. It's a long way up and down. California's not very wide, but it's long. Go to well, I say used to go. I've gone to this bar a couple times in Corning, California. Not a bad little place back in the day. I think there's a Petro there or something. I can't remember exactly. But right across the street there's a bar. Loves. I'll stop in there sometime to get fuel, but honestly I don't need to. I'll stop down there in South Hutch. As you may have noticed in my videos, I don't do a lot of stopping. Like last night, I left Greeley. I didn't stop till I got to Schuyler, Nebraska. And the reason why I stopped in Schuyler, two reasons. One, I needed to make sure I had enough fuel in that reefer to drop it, because you got to have 3/4 of a tank. And I'm only 100 miles from South Sioux there. And two, I had to take that ridiculous 30-minute break. If it wasn't for those two things, I'd have drove non-stop the 560-something miles to South Sioux City. Because I had the fuel to do it. I think there's all kind of parking in there tonight. Hirschbach. Another one of those companies, Hirschbach. I saw one of their trucks up there. I see them a lot in the Midwest. Of course, they're based out of Nebraska, I think, or Iowa or Nebraska. I don't know. They bought out JCT out of Oklahoma. They tried to call me one time. I didn't answer, but it came up. Somebody's name with the last name Hirschbach. So apparently they got family still working there. But they seem pretty corporate, and I just can't do that. About this scale here, it's usually closed at night nowadays, especially on the weekend. This weigh station here, Belleville, Kansas, yeah, it's closed. This scale used to be open all the time. Back in the day, the scale was open all the time. And they have a holding cell in the scale. Because there's a lot of traffic violations in Kansas, not just on trucks, but on cars too, that are actual misdemeanors. In other words, they're criminal offenses. And you can be put in jail for them. A lot of people don't realize that, like logbook violations and stuff like that. Those are criminal offenses, those are misdemeanors in Kansas. And like I said, cars as well. There are a lot of things that are just what do you call infractions in other states that are misdemeanors in Kansas. In other words, you can get jail time for it. Dude back there with those light bumper lights. He come up on me back there not long after the state line like he was going to pass me, and then he fell way back. I don't know, man. Some of these people are just kind of odd. Especially you start getting later on in the evening. You start getting into some strange people on the road. I mean, he was beside me at one point back in Nebraska like he was going to pass me. And he just kind of fell back, and he finally got over in the right lane. I don't know. Takes all kinds, I guess. big company up there in South Sioux City area is that K&B. I go by their terminal all the time when I go to Empirical Foods in South Sioux. K&B. I remember people back in the day saying that was a good company. They paid well and all that. I don't know anymore how they are. They got them ugly Cascadias they run. Anyway, I guess I ought to go ahead and end this video, man. It's been over an hour. An hour of me just driving down 83 or 81. Running my head. Yawning. I don't know why I'm yawning. I slept pretty good today. Last couple of breaks, man, I've had insomnia. I'll sleep 3 hours and then I'm up. And this morning, I got to South Sioux. I did a drop and hook, and I was going to take a break there, but I said, hey, let me go on over to Norfolk, Nebraska to that Love's. I had to put a little fuel in the reefer, make sure it had 3/4 of a tank in it. I went in and did my 10-hour break. I couldn't hardly keep my eyes open. Between South Sioux and Norfolk, man, it was all I could do to stay awake. After that, I'm gonna take, even though I'm only 15 miles from Madison, I'm gonna go ahead and take my break, be done with it. And I sent a message to dispatch when I woke up, and I said, is the Madison load ready? She goes, yeah, it's ready. I said, okay. I'll go ahead and run down there, pick it up, and go. I slept pretty good today. I don't know, I'm about to take a 34. I'll get some rest then. I slept pretty good up in Alaska, I gotta say. I didn't have any trouble in that respect. Go ahead and end this video. Like and subscribe, man. I'd really appreciate it. While I'm on my 34, I'll probably do a live, I'll probably go live. I don't know exactly when yet. I'll post it whenever I figure it out. And I'm also going to try to, like I said, get into a few more things. Since I don't have as many exciting videos of Alaska, and I'm doing so much night driving, I know it's boring. So anyway, we'll see what happens. Whenever I figure out when I'm going to go live, I'll post it. So I appreciate you watching. Like, subscribe, share, all that stuff. And we'll see you next time.